video analysis. So, all right.
Going to adopt all his arguments.
Okay, if you're not, Mr. Harvey did you all a favor yesterday, okay? Unless there's something else, assume that objection or
Hasn't been tested. We have no idea his method. Did he
did you take the 526 US to look at other non-scientific, more so, it's more so like not like chemistry, biology, physics, that kind of thing that can be tested, that can be that there's either a right or a wrong answer. So I'm required under Kumu to go ahead and at least if I can look at the other factors in terms of the subject matter of his testimony and expertise. I mean, reliability. Aye.
But Your Honor, Kumu Tire doesn't apply here. This is scientific analysis that he is doing. I don't understand scientific than using Fourier transforms, discrete cosine transforms, you're taking it into a different domain.
No, you are, because you're adding things that haven't been testified to.
He testified that he doesn't know.
Okay, now that goes to ways. And I have a gatekeeping function. Beside that, you're welcome on cross to take him to task on any of that.
But your gatekeeping function ensures that methods, analysis that doesn't follow reliable, established standards doesn't get in front of the jury. And this gentleman, while he's been doing it for a long time, is not following the methods in this industry. He's using his own method.
The Daubert factors, I'm quoting out of Kumu, Daubert factors do not constitute a definite checklist. Gatekeeping must be facts. Particular facts are, he enhances, he blows this thing up into divides it into 4 parts, and he can testify about that. You're testified to. You all certainly, there are issues of weight, and I'm sure that you'll go ahead and examine him on. Anything else?
Yep.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Jones. Anything else? Thank you very much, sir.
He testified that he uses Photoshop, which is a product that is sold to the common public that can be used by anybody. Understanding that Photoshop does not need to be the bolster his ignition. And also, the fact that he said he was doing this 30 years should not carry weight, given the fact that technology that has not even existed for maybe 10 to 15 years, which he testified that he only uses maybe twice a month.
And he's been qualified 50 times in, or actually in DeKalb, Fulton, Cobb, and Gwinnett. So, and Fulton. So, all right. Thank you, sir.
Just, we respectfully disagree, Your Honor, and just saying that as he testified, any layperson could do this. We do have an objection as to him being labeled an expert. It will be, again, bolstering. They can just present him as a witness as a technician video. execute the jury what he actually did, that he has an expertise in that, and not that it's something any different than their investigator. So just that person going.
Ms. Rosenwasser, one more thing. What about of somebody, I mean, Photoshop he used Photoshop in this particular case, didn't he?
Your Honor, could I ask?
And did you or did you enhance the video in this case? Photoshop. He did. All right. So what's to say that, as Mr. Suri's mentioned already about anybody else being able to use Photoshop?
Your Honor, my understanding from.
'Cause I don't need to designate him as an expert for him to testify.
Absolutely. When we went to qualify and we wanted to do this out of essentially an abundance of caution to ensure that maybe the jury would want to know be able to explain his of testimony and experience. So my understanding is that based on his experience, my understanding to the answer to the question where he mentioned that anyone could do was not only that anyone could use Photoshop, but anyone who knows how to use Photoshop and learns over a period of years how to enhance better on it. But should the court wish to find he is only admissible as a lay witness, we'll put in the videos through him as a lay witness. That's fine too. We just want to get the videos in. I don't care who's coming.
Photoshop, and that anybody with a varying level of skill and practice can do that. I won't qualify him as an expert. I'm just going to let him testify as a layperson for the above mentioned reasons. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's,
All right.
we'll call him as a lay witness.
That's fine. All right. Mr. Pineda, I'm going to go ahead and excuse you as a witness. Appreciate your patience with us, and the state will that's what call you. You might get a call from Mr. Menendez over here to interpret, but that's a separate issue, okay? And make sure you're patient. All right. Sure. All right. Before I have the other witness, Mr.
Investigator Hall. Yes.
I'm gonna, let's just pause on him just a second. Witness related to Mr. Stillwell's motion to dismiss.
Your Honor, we are not ready on that right now. We can be ready for that immediately after Investigator Hall's testimony.
How come he's not here? I thought you all said you're gonna have him available.
Your Honor, I never do that hearing.
That's fine. Let me give you 10 minutes. I have to, there's something else I need, unrelated court business I need to take up. So let me go ahead and deal with Mr. Stillwell next, and then we'll start on Mr. Hall probably this afternoon. But let's go ahead and get Mr. Stillwell done first, okay? I'm going to recess about 15 minutes, and we'll go ahead and.
Can we keep Investigator Hall here, Your Honor?
Hang tight. Have him come back for 1 o'clock, please, madam. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, we're in recess. All right, we ready? Everybody back? Okay, all right. Good afternoon, Ms. Love and Mr. Armstrong.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, so Ms. Rosenwald, where are we now with the issue involving Mr. Stillwell? Do we have witness?
Yes, Your Honor, and the hearing is going to be handled by Mr. Armstrong as well.
Okay, what's the name of our witness?
Deputy District Attorney Michael Sprinkle, Your Honor. S-P-R-I-N.
Hey, all right, so Mr. Sprinkle?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, for the record, I'd like to invoke the rule of sequestration.
In case you can step outside at this point, please don't accept the attorney's.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, the DA's office is speaking to the mic. Do you have a hard time?
Yes, please. Is Mr. Sprinkle on his way or is he,
He's here, Your Honor.
okay, all right. You can summon Mr. Sprinkle, please.
They are getting him. He was outside, Your Honor.
I'm done calling. This is I'm done. It's crazy.
Mike.
What?
It's okay, we will. It's no problem. Oh,
Oh, he went to,
Your Honor, Deputy Sprinkle is coming to this courtroom from 8F. He erroneously understood us to be there. To the court.
Okay.
No, it's this one.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to. I was. I didn't too.
We're gonna get on to the introduction of this.
That, if I anticipate going to go into the facts of this case a little bit, hopefully more than necessary, will not try to go anywhere unnecessarily. We had filed January 9th. we to continue to be using initials, pseudonyms? Where are we with that? Because I don't,
And I've been asked to do that, so I mean, this is your motion. So you need to use whatever names, hold on, Mr. Sprinkle, 1 second. 1 sec, Mr. Sprinkle, hold on 1 second. So is that what you're asking?
well, I just don't want to violate anyone's court orders or get in trouble for anything. And I'm going to do my best. I mean, I know people by names, but
Well, I
my,
haven't said otherwise, I mean,
Okay.
so,
All right.
no, I mean, that was a time, like a time period line in the sand for information to be provided. So,
we're past that.
yeah, we're past that.
Thank you.
And maybe getting some more phone calls. Answer that for me, please. Huh? No, different. I blocked that last one. Okay, is that clarified, Mr.?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, Mr. Spring? Sir, if you would be so kind, once materials witness and apprehension will be swear you to witness. Okay.
I do.
First and last name, they still first and last name.
Last name Sprinkle, Sprinkel.
Good afternoon, Deputy Sprinkle. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Deputy Sprinkle, would you please tell the court where it is you're currently employed?
I'm currently in Fulton County District
How long have you served the Fulton County District Attorney's Office as a Deputy District Attorney?
since June 21st, 2011.
And when did you first begin with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office?
June 21st, 2011.
What area do you work in within the District Attorney's Office?
I am the head of the unindicted homicide unit. I review all of the murder cases that come, well, not just murder, all homicide cases that come into the office from the various police agencies in the county.
And you made a distinction between murders and homicides. Why is that?
Well, it's not just murder. There's felony murder. There's involuntary manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter, homicide by vehicle in the first degree, et cetera.
Have you always homicide unit?
No.
As the head of the unindicted homicide unit, what did you do within the District Attorney's Office?
For approximately the first 3 months of my employment in the DA's office, I was assigned to what was called at the time the complaint room, which was a 24-hour operation in which I would receive or be assigned cases that were coming in live. Say somebody had just been arrested and the police would report. I would see the officer draft some sort of affidavit to summarize the case and otherwise ready the case for first appearance the following morning. Following that, I was assigned to the non-complex division. I was in that division for 3 to 6 months. It sounds about right. That involved the prosecution of cases that were possession of cocaine and theft by taking under a certain value. After my time in the non-complex division, I was assigned to the complex trial division for about a little less than 2 years. Signed to Judge Schwaller in Johnson Russell's courtroom. And then in October of 2013, I was assigned to the unindicted homicide unit, albeit I was not the head of the unindicted homicide unit, though if memory serves correctly, I was the only attorney in the unit. So I suppose in a way I was head, given that I was the only one. But then as time went on, the unit expanded. I was voted, and now there's more employees in the unit. Now I'm the deputy in charge of it.
Within the homicide unit of the District Attorney's Office, do you receive cases involving homicides where persons are charged or already arrested?
Yes.
And is it always the case that a person has been charged or arrested when you receive a file within the office?
No.
When you receive a file wherein a person has been arrested, do you immediately present that case to the grand jury?
No.
Why?
Well, a person who's been charged or arrested primarily committed the crime that they committed. In order to do that, inspect the case file, which primarily, if not, well, I don't want to say exclusively, because there are some things that I find on my own. When I'm preliminarily looking at a case file, I look at what the police have sent reports, their interviews, cell phone records, the extractions of cell phones, when the police actually got data out of somebody's cell phone. And I just go over all of this to make sure it's consistent with what has been alleged in the arrest warrants.
And do you always have all of the information within the case file given to you by law enforcement that you feel you need in order to fully complete the investigation on a homicide?
No, not always, no.
And what types of steps do you take to ensure that you have obtained as much information as you can? Do you, for instance, do you pull jail calls?
Yes,
Do you speak with witnesses?
I do on occasion, yes.
Do you go to scenes?
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
Your Honor,
Is it preliminary matter? Is it preliminary matters?
thank you.
I'll allow it over your objection.
Thank you. Meetings?
Yes,
Do you seek search warrants?
yes.
And do you present evidence to other entities for further testing?
Yes.
And does that always take limited amounts of time, or is that sometimes more protracted?
Well, it depends on the case and the volume of deficiencies that I have identified in the initial investigation.
Bringing you to the case involving the murder of Donovan Thomas, do you recall when you received that case file within the district attorney's office?
Would have been late, probably December 2015, January of 2016, somewhere around there. It's actually probably going to be January of 2016 to be more exact.
And without going into specifics about what that was, at the time that you received that case file, was it complete to your satisfaction as an assistant district attorney?
Well, it depends on how you define the word complete. Was it complete insofar as the Atlanta Police Department was there? I don't know. They handed me everything that I asked for. If there were some other documents that the Detective Thorpe sent in his file, they didn't know that. As far as I know, what the Atlanta Police Department gave me was the complete file.
And did you review that complete case file that you received from the Atlanta Police Department?
I did.
Upon reviewing that case file, was it sufficient to present to the grand jury as you received it at that time?
No.
Did you take additional on that time? A person had been arrested on the murder, is that correct?
Yeah, at least one person had been arrested on the murder.
And that person was the defendant Shannon Stillwell?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
What you were able to gather from the file that Detective Thorpe gave you and from your subsequent investigation of the case that you did, was Mr. Stillwell the only person of interest in that case? Was he the only alleged participant in the homicide?
Well, no, there were three other. If we're talking about the people that had been charged by the police, there were four.
Okay, go ahead.
There was Antonio Sledge, Demikian Garlington, Kenneth Copeland, and Shannon Jackson, aka Shannon Stillwell. Those were the four people that the police charged for the murder of Donovan Thomas in late 2015.
And were you able to determine, based on your review of the file given to you by Detective Thorpe, what primarily those arrests were based on?
They were primarily based on the statement of a young man named Spencer Wright.
All right. And when you received the file from Detective Thorpe, did you endeavor to speak with Spencer?
I did.
Why is that?
Well, so Spencer Wright, according to his statement, he witnessed the homicide, the drive-by shooting, as he stood at a bus stop on McDaniel Street across the street from the barber shop, a lot of which Mr. Donovan Thomas stood when he suffered his fatal gunshot wounds. There was a surveillance camera on that barber shop, and the bus stop where Mr. Wright said he stood was in the viewing area of that surveillance camera. And looked at the footage, I didn't see suspect milling about the bus stop, and I only bring that up to indicate that the clarity was sufficient to tell if there was a human being standing there. There was no human being standing there. So what I wanted to do was speak with Mr. Wright and show him, I believe I printed off some still images. I don't think I brought in like a computer or something to show him the actual footage. So I wanted to speak with Mr. Wright. The thing is, I wanted to speak with, make sure that I was clear as to where he was standing. So I actually, with that video, some printouts from Google Earth to point the specific bus that he was standing. And when he did, he pointed to the bus stop that was depicted on the surveillance footage, at which point I said, but there's nobody standing at that bus stop. And he didn't really have an explanation for me.
Did you receive that surveillance footage from the Atlanta Police Department?
Yeah, yes.
Did you, as you stated, you pulled Google Earth images? Was that something that you had received from the Atlanta Police, or is that something that you did to further your investigation?
That was something I did to aid in my interview with Mr. Wright. I just pulled up Google Earth and took screenshots of the bus stop in the general area where the homicide occurred, so he could point to and indicate where he stood, where he claimed, I should say.
And why are you that he was not shown in the surveillance footage that you presented to him, yet he claims to have witnessed the homicide?
Well, the bus stop was his vantage point from which he witnessed the four defendants I mentioned earlier occupying a vehicle or shooting, standing at the bus stop. The best he witnessed it.
Was there anything else that you were able to uncover during your ensuing investigation of this case that enlightened you more as to whether or not Mr. Wright was presenting to you information that was factually accurate?
Yes. So after my interview with him, I requested from the Atlanta City Jail, because that's where he was when I interviewed him. I interviewed him inside the Atlanta City Jail. He was an inmate there. From somebody that worked at the Atlanta City Jail, whose name I don't work. Phone calls placed by inmates from the Atlanta City Jail were recorded. So when I obtained Mr. Wright's jail calls, I found one that was placed shortly after his arrest to a gentleman. And during this call, and this is, by the way, not verbatim, okay? I'm not quoting him exactly, but he told his friend about his recent arrest, which I believe was on a probation violation. And he said that everything would be okay because he was helping the police solve a murder. And his friend scoffed at him and said, but you didn't witness that. And Mr. Wright responded, he basically shushed him, reminding him that they were on a recorded jail line. But, and the implication there was that he didn't witness it. He would prefer that his friend not, utter such a thing on a recorded jail phone. And then he said, but it's something to the effect of, it doesn't matter. We all know what happened anyway. And it's also worth mentioning that during my interview with Mr. Wright, very soon into the interview, something that caught my attention was, he said, you see, I've been on Instagram, or so, again, not verbatim, but he mentioned that he had been on Instagram and putting the pieces together from there, which put up a red flag, made me think that perhaps he was just compiling a statement through rumors he saw on the internet. So after I heard that jail call, I asked investigator David White. I knew who he was talking to. I can't recall his name off the head, but the man he was talking to, the same gentleman, etc. So my investigator reached him and asked, well, how did you know that Mr. Wright didn't witness the murder of Donovan Thomas? And he said, well, that murder was a really big deal in the city, and I'm pretty close with Mr. Wright, and he never mentioned to me that he had witnessed it, and it's the kind of thing that he would have mentioned had he witnessed it. So at that point, I was satisfied that Mr. Wright didn't really witness the murder at all, and he just made it up.
Why didn't you just go ahead and present the information to the grand jury as had been presented to you by the Atlanta Police Department? A person had been arrested. Is it an imperative that you immediately get a case indicted?
Who just made the objection?
Self-serving.
I sustain as to form. You can rephrase it. You can rephrase it.
Yeah. Mr. Sprinkle, is there any reason in particular why you did not go ahead and present the indictment to the grand jury with the names and the information that given to you from the police department?
Well, for one, I'm not the one who decided or presented to what, because at that point, evidence that they committed the murder at all. And I wouldn't present a case naming a specific individual. I wouldn't present indictment to a grand jury wherein a specific individual is alleged to have committed crime when there's a total absence of evidence that they actually committed the crime. That would actually violate state bar rules for me to do that.
And Your Honor, if the court would, just so that I'm aware, is there any other party to this defendant Stillwell's motion to dismiss that I'm unaware of? Because
I have not, the court, I'm unaware of anybody else who's joined this petition.
Okay.
So,
These keep saying that because this is RICO, everything applies to everything. I have adopted the motions of everybody, so I do reserve the right to ask some questions of the witness, Your Honor. But based on the theory that the state says that because it's RICO, everything applies to my client, I do want to make it very clear. Okay, I've done.
Your Honor, this is Stillwell's of his constitutional right to a speedy trial. I do not believe that Mr. Chadha or his client have any right to deal with this right or the denial of a speedy trial.
but
And I would ask that the court limit questioning and argument and commentary to the parties that are involved in this.
Your Honor, as it relates to Mr. Marquavius Huey, he has nothing to do with it as well in terms of the specifics of a murder. However, he's a part of this indictment.
yeah, well, the issue you're going to have is that since it's a RICO case and anything can be due to any other defendant, that's what the confrontation to this. So the specific relief is only available to Mr. Stillwell, but counsel are entitled to have it as they see fit.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Williams, we have this motion. We understand it's Mr. Smith, but again, as a RICO indictment, Mr. Williams is charged in it. He has an interest and an ability to pose objections if necessary.
Deputy Sprinkle, after you determined that the information that you had given was or could